The next category is good. Here's where that landed. And that's where that landed. And that's where that landed. There was no success category for my long-distance fling tests of my small flying ring. The best category was the one you've just seen, good. But something about that bothered me. When I threw what I call my small flying ring as far as I could many times, I also threw what I call my large flying ring. My farthest throw was with the large flying ring. I then made all my small flying ring flings from where that farthest throw landed. It occurred to me that maybe the large flying ring flies farther than the small one. So I tried throwing both again many times to try to determine if I consistently threw the large flying ring farther than the small flying ring. I did. As a result, I was flinging the small flying ring from too far away from the middle of the dark green fence. The average extra distance away was the same as the average distance of the landings of my good flings from the middle of the dark green fence. So, although they fell short of the middle of the dark green fence, my farthest small flying ring flings were actually the same distance as my farthest small flying ring throws. That's good, but that's not success. So, overall, how successful is the disc whip? Using the disc whip, I could successfully fling my farthest flying golf discs farther than I could throw them. And although I could not successfully fling my small flying ring farther than I could throw it, I could fling it just as far as I could throw it. But I could only fling as far as or farther than my farthest throw, unreliably, maybe about 1 out of every 15 flings. Here are some of the things that contributed to limiting my success in my long-distance fling tests. There are many variables in the different disc whip prototypes, including different lengths, weights, and torques, either up or down at the front. There are many variables in golf discs, including different weights and flight characteristics. There are many variables in any one fling, including the orientation of the disc whip in my hands, the orientation of the curving motion of the disc whip swing, the timing of starting the golf disc or flying ring rolling along the beam, and the timing of releasing it in the correct direction. I would need many more hours of carefully structured testing to determine how best to fling each disc whip to get my maximum distance with each disc. Trying to fling the more massive golf discs with more force had the greatest potential for breaking any disc whip. So I never swung any disc whip with my full force, because that might break that disc whip and end all future testing of that disc whip. So there's a lot of potential for improvement. I've learned some things from all the long distance fling testing I've done, and I now have some ideas for some improvements which I think will achieve more reliable longer distance flings. At the end of session number 3, after I had flung all my golf discs and my small flying ring, I decided to try flinging that one white disc I had found which no one had claimed, which had somehow been brought with my discs to the baseball field. That white disc went so high, so fast, I lost sight of it. Later, when I was collecting what I had flung, I was unable to find it. Not much later. In radio news today, NASA scientists are pleased to announce that the moon is now back in its place in the sky. Theories abound as to where the moon went after its collision with the shooting star and how it returned. To try to understand what happened, Radio News interviewed a random selection of quote-unquote physics experts. We informed these experts that a few weeks ago some NASA scientists had observed, then hurriedly confirmed, that a small straight-flying shooting star classified as a nova mini was on a collision course with Luna, the disk of the moon. The NASA scientists had only seconds before it would hit. To try to warn everyone, they pushed the panic button to activate air raid sirens everywhere. When the moon was hit by the shooting star, it fell from the sky and seemingly disappeared. We then explained to the experts that the moon had recently just reappeared, and then we asked the experts for their thoughts on how it disappeared and then reappeared. As usual, relativity theorists assumed space-time did it, even though neither space nor time has any substance to affect anything. Also, as usual, quantum theorists assumed anything can happen anywhere at any time for no reason, and that explains everything. And of course, as usual, matter theorist Paul Marostica assumed there must be a logical explanation. Then Marostica asked us exactly when the moon disappeared and when it reappeared. After we answered him, he gazed up at the moon for a full minute with an intense, thoughtful expression on his face. Then, looking back to us, he said he knows what happened and he has video evidence guaranteed to prove it beyond any reasonable doubt. But no one in science listens to him. NASA scientists have just informed us that the moon now appears different than it did before it disappeared and then reappeared. They speculate that the moon's change in appearance might be a result of its collision with the Nova Mini. Some strange things have happened here, but now we think maybe we know why. We figure the moon knew that there shooting star was going to shoot it out of its hanging spot in the sky. So the moon looked for help from some sympathetic simpleton it could control using its moon rays. The moon had been watching that inventor fella, having fun throwing moon-like discs into the sky. So the moon tested him by making him climb that rock and whack his bum with those white discs. He was using two other moons to help him moon the moon. Then, when the moon got shot out of its hanging spot, it controlled its crash landing to Tombstone near that inventor fella's disc. From then on, the moon influenced him to invent a device to fling discs farther than he can throw them. That's where Mr. I got me an idea got his ideas. When the inventor fella finally succeeded, the moon made the inventor fella fling the moon back up into its hanging spot in the sky. Now, speaking of hanging, so whether it's a disc whip, a vane from a windmill, a fishing rod, or a paddle from a canoe. Remember, you saw it here on Paul Marostica channel. Some of you might try to construct your own disc whips, possibly using other materials and other construction techniques. If you do, I would be pleased to learn how you constructed them and how well they fling. I've been thinking about the name disc whip. My invention is not just for flinging golf discs, it's also for flinging flying rings. I'm thinking maybe I should change its name from disc whip to flinger. Tell me what you think in the comments. Oh, and it helps my channel if you like and subscribe. We ain't done yet. We got outtakes. Hey, what's that in there? Gold. I keep it. I sledgehammered back together disc whip number 3. It is not as strong as it was, but it can still putt. This thing's super unstable. If you throw it like this, it'll turn hard, circle about, and come back and hit you in the head. If you throw it high enough, it will circle about and then fade away from you and land on the ground somewhere. But what's the good in that? You've got to walk to pick it up. I got me putting boomerang back from Australia. It's got magnets on it, which helps it stick better. I don't know if that last one was in or out. Here's what happened with some other putts. You decide. So, was it in or out? 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 So here are the pieces. I got one big piece, the handle more or less, and one kind of splinter piece. It's done.
That's probably going to be the best one.
It's because it probably will be because these things are keeping it.
Yeah, steady.
Steady.
Yeah. Wow, that's gone. Oh, that's over the fence. Oh!
It works.
Yeah,
It works.
I got it.
To celebrate my long-distance fling testing, I went to the disc golf shop to get a cap made with my initials on it. It turned out they already had one that matched with my top. How about that? You You can't go yet. You don't go till I say you can go. Thanks for staying until the end of my story. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Paul Marostica, and I'm the inventor of matter theory. In about the last 100 years, in trying to explain some more recently discovered fundamental physics observables, professionally used physics theories led by quantum theory and relativity theory have evolved from being physically logical theories to being physically illogical theories, with quantum theory even assuming the existence of many unobservables. This evolution of physics theory is the result of some illogical thinking. So I want you to remember this. When you cannot logically understand something in quantum theory or relativity theory, you are not the problem. It's the illogical assumptions and implications of those theories that are the problem. All of quantum theory's assumed unobservables have never been observed by anyone, including all the quantum theorists who assumed them. Those assumed unobservables remain unobserved, not because they exist and are unobservable, but because they don't exist and they've only ever been assumed to exist. I invented matter theory to try to logically explain, in one unifying theory, fundamental physics observables, especially those fundamental physics observables unexplained or illogically explained in other theories. Within my ability to test, I've succeeded, and I can make the following claims. Matter theory physically and mathematically far more logically explains far more fundamental physics observables than any combination of any of the professionally used and other new physics theories. All the professionally used physics theories were invented to try to explain the same fundamental physics observables matter theory explains, but each professionally used physics theory explains only some out of all those fundamental physics observables. That's because each professionally used physics theory is just a flawed version of some part of matter theory. And matter theory more logically explains more of what we observe without assuming the existence of any unobservables. What is unexplained or illogically explained in quantum theory and relativity theory, and in the other professionally used physics theories, is simply and logically explainable using matter theory. This eliminates from physics many illogical assumptions and their implications, and it eliminates from physics many years of learning all those illogical, contradicting, professionally used theories. Many physics theorists working for various physics institutes, funded by various physics funding organizations, have stated publicly that if a theory of everything was possible, they would want to learn it and use it. Yet, when I offered to sell to those physics institutes or physics funding organizations, satisfaction guaranteed, the only possible physically and mathematically logical theory of everything, they make excuses and do nothing. They make excuses and do nothing when instead they should be actively seeking, evaluating, and paying for the better theories that their physics theorists want. I consider this situation a terrible disservice to humanity. My successes in using matter theory to understand fundamental physics prove to me that physics is and has always been logical, yet our taxes continue to be used not to fund logical theories and to teach students logic, but to fund illogical theories and to teach students illogic, making students think they are inadequate because they cannot logically understand illogic. And it's all happening needlessly. Don't let yourselves and the next generations of humanity be needlessly misled by illogic. The fundamentals of physics theory are easy to understand when you use the correct assumptions, and they're impossible to understand when you don't. My theory, matter theory, is for sale, as advertised in my prior 8 YouTube videos. All right, you can go. Thanks for viewing. Don't miss the next video in the Disc Whip Flinger video series.